joining me on the phones. Great to visit with our next guest, Reggie Dial. He's with the organization 100 Black Men of West Texas. Reggie, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, sir. How's everything going?
Well, we're doing fine. We appreciate you taking some time to join us. For those who may or may not know, we had you on the PSA show this week in Lubbock over the weekend. Had a great conversation there. We wanted to kind of continue it today and talk about it here on the show. Tell folks, Reggie, we'll kind of start, just with the organization, 100 Black Men of West Texas. Tell folks about that organization here in Lubbock and how you became a member of it.
Well, good to be with you again this morning, Chad. And the 100 Black Men of West Texas is really a division of the 100 Black Men of America. The 100 Black Men of America is a chapter that prepare young men and also women to realize their highest potential by creating a viable solution to address, just local and national issues that affect the African American community. That's our main goal.
And how is that done? Is that done through mentorship? What are the main ways you get that message through? Our main
purpose is mentorship. That's our main goal is mentorship, but we also have other pillars that we fall up under as well, like health and wellness, education, leadership development, and community development. And so we fall up under those umbrellas as well, but our main focus is mentorship.
And talk about that a little bit, because how long have you been a member of the organization? And how, when you talk about mentorship, I guess what types of things are discussed and talked about, and I mean, what all goes into that?
Well, our motto is what they see is what they will be. So what we try to do is be a representation of these young people. We try to give them positive influence. We try to be there when they need us, if they're going through difficult situations, if they're having issues in school, if they're having issues at home. Another thing we have done as well is we created a collegiate 100 that's on the Texas Tech campus. And so we have a collegiate 100 that's on the campus that also that dwells in professional development. Talk about becoming more than just a athlete. Try to be a positive influence to other minority students that's on campus. I got involved with the 100 about 10 years ago. I was pressured to get involved with my wife. You kind of know how that is. My wife told me I had to do something. She said, "Hey, you need to be a part of this organization." And of course, with her guidance, I think it was one of the best decisions I could have made.
Well, that's great. That's really wonderful. To talk about the walk. We're talking about while we have you on, Reggie, we're talking about race here in Lubbock. We're talking about racial issues here in Lubbock. Obviously, this really started boiling over, I guess, with the death of George Floyd.
Yes.
And that's where you saw protests across America. Here in Lubbock, we've seen protests, and they've been good protests, safe protests. We haven't seen the looting and destroying that we've seen in other places.
Thank God.
The organization that you're with, y'all put together a walk. Talk about that and what went into it and the message that you wanted to send with that walk.
Well, that walk came at the last-minute deal. One of the guys, Pastor Bill Stubblefield, who's also on the Lubbock ISD board, gave me a call and was like, "Hey, man, I got this idea that I really want to do. I really want to have this solidarity walk, not a march. I want to do something that's going to show unity with not only our Lubbock community, but also our Lubbock Police Department." And so we started making calls and got a hold to Chief Floyd Mitchell. Chief gave me a call, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And, he said, I said, "When you want to do it?" He said, "Today." I was like, okay.
That's short notice.
Short notice, yeah. And so we got the information out, and we let everybody know what we was about to do. And we really want to make an emphasis on this is not a march. This is a walk to show solidarity, because we just want to show unity, and we want it to be seen and not necessarily heard. We just want to show that how powerful it is just to come together, and show force. Show force by being with our police department, show force with being with our community leaders, show force with being with our dignitaries. So it turned out to be such a great event, and I love the support that we got from the Lubbock community.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about that a little bit more, in that it was a unity walk, a show of solidarity, because what we've seen around the country, Reggie, it doesn't seem like it's unified. You have different pockets where it's very anti-police. Does that hurt the overall message when you see the anti-police part of it?
It does. Because let's face it. Truth be told, we need police officers.
Right.
That's just the reality of it. We need police officers, so we have to figure out a way to make the relationship between the minority community and the police department work. And I think one way that we are starting to do that is, two ways we're starting to do that. One is really putting emphasis on community policing, taking the badge off, taking a uniform off, and just knowing the individuals for who they are, not necessarily police officers, just meeting them as a man or as a woman. Secondly, I think what we have done is we partnered with the Lubbock Police Academy to work on bringing more diversity within the police department as well. Again, because representation is very important, and so we're working with them to try to recruit more minorities to be a part of the Lubbock Police Department as well.
Since you've been a member of the 100 Black Men of West Texas, how has the relationship with the police department changed, evolved? Has it changed? In whether it's the last few years, however long, how has it changed, and how is that relationship right now?
I tell you what, we've always had a good relationship with our local police department. Even with Chief Stevens, the last chief that was here before Chief Mitchell, we've always had an open line of communication with him. The funny thing is, I served in the Navy with Chief Stevens, and so we always had an open dialogue and had an open relationship about these type of issues. So it all started there, and I think we've always had a great relationship with our local police department.
What do you think overall, the as far as the black community in Lubbock and the relationship with LPD, is the overall relationship good, bad? Is it strained? Where is that?
I think that's a good word for it, strained. I think strained is a good word, because even when I was growing up, the only time we really seen police in our community is when something bad was happening. We never really seen the police just come into the neighborhood and get to know the people in the community. So it was always meeting them on bad terms when emotions are high and people are going through things. And so that's the perfect word, is having a strained relationship. But I think by having this police department that's going to be over in East Lubbock and the one they're doing on North Lubbock,
right,
I think that's going to help out a lot as far, again, the community policing piece, because they've already emphasized that this is going to be a building for the community where the young men, young ladies can come and have conversations, sit down and have coffee and donuts with the police officers. And so I'm hoping that this will loosen up some of the angst that some of us have, some of the community have with police department.
Reggie, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Reggie Dial with the 100 Black Men of West Texas here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. Back on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO, visiting with Reggie Dial with the 100 Black Men of West Texas here on the program. And Reggie, one thing that you and I discussed on the This Week in Lubbock show was that your organization was wanting to get more involved in this national discussion on race. what is that? What do you think that looks like, and what do you think that question or that discussion looks like? Here on the forget about maybe national level, but here on the local level, what does that look like?
Well, we have to be, for one, Chad, it has to be an honest conversation. It has to be an honest dialogue that we could have without somebody getting their feelings hurt. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it has to start. It has to start there. We have to recognize that, okay, we have a few issues here in Lubbock as well, and we have to figure out a way to work and make those issues, make us come together so we can solve those issues, because we can't do it by ourselves. We can't make anything happen without the support of the community, without the support of the Hispanic community, without the support of the white community, the African American. We all have to come together and realize that, hey, we have to live in Lubbock together, so we have to figure out a way to make it work. And I think that starts with the conversations we're having now, Chad. I really do.
Well, where do you think those conversations normally shut down?
When it starts getting real. When the conversations start getting real, I think that's when the conversation stops. When, in reality, that's when the conversation should continue on. Because it has to be, we have to heal the wounds that we have. We have to open up and have that dialogue in order to get past the situation that we're in right now. Because I know we're going to get past it. I mean, it's just a matter. We're definitely going to get past it, but we just have to figure out a way to do this together, and not. And it's not about. And one thing that really upsets me is when it becomes a whole political thing. Well, I'm not trying to make this into a political issue. I'm trying to make this into a human rights issue. I can care less about a political party when it comes to this stuff. I'm talking about just being a decent human being, loving each other for who we are, and respecting one another. That's all we really care about.
And I think, and I can tell you where I think a lot of the listeners come from, because I think you're right on the political. That's where I think it goes crazy. And where it jumps off, and becomes a political hot button issue when you see, we'll take the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's a political movement. That's how a lot of people see the Black Lives Matter movement, as a political movement, when it may have started as not a political movement, if you will. Right. And I think most people would have no problem saying, yeah, Black Lives Matter. Absolutely, Black Lives Matter. But the movement that is out there, the organization has become a political organization, which, they're advocating for political change in America. Right. I mean, do you see that as hurting the overall cause, or do you see that as an important part of the conversation?
Well, it needs to be tangled into the conversation, because we have to. The truth of we have to make policy changes, and so there has to be a little bit of political dialogue,
like reform.
Reform, yes. And, and one thing, let me tell you this, one thing that I really don't like hearing, and I'll be honest with you, this is just my perspective, not a 100 perspective, when I hear folks talking about defunding the police. No, maybe some reorganization, some reorganizing, but not to defund the police department, because that, to me, does not make any sense. I don't even know how that even came about.
Well, and that's again where the message gets lost. And when you take a look at what you've seen since the death of George Floyd, mm-hmm. and I think you would agree that America was pretty united on the death of George Floyd and the condemnation towards those officers.
Correct.
I think we were all pretty united on that. Yes. Do you get the feeling that since then, and since the protests, since the demonstration, since everything that has gone on, and then last week, I mentioned during the top of the hour, you had a Texas Tech professor who wants to change the name of Lubbock. You've got even the Texas Rangers ball club under fire and being told that they may need to change the name of their. Do you see the message getting lost, or is it all part of the same conversation?
it's completely getting lost.
Yeah.
It's completely getting lost, and that's where all the extra, what I call extra stuff, come in at. I think changing the name of Lubbock is very minute. That should be somewhere way in the back burner, if that's even a legitimate cause to even fight for. You got to pick your battles.
Right.
That's not a battle to be picked. Lubbock is Lubbock. This is where we live. That's not going to change. The name is not going to change. And so we have to let that go. We
Right.
have to let that part go, So all that extra stuff, what I call extra, can get lost in what we're trying to do, which is reform relationships with whether that's Lubbock Police Department, whether that's LA, whatever it is, we're trying to reform relationships with our police departments. That's the main goal. All this other stuff is extra.
As a mentor and someone with the 100 Black Men of West Texas, and I think I asked you about this during the other show. When you hear the talk in the black community is to be anti-cop, or that children are raised to fear police, is that a problem in the black community?
No, but first of all, I wasn't raised like that. None of my friends that I know of were raised like that to hate cops or to not trust cops. What happens is different situations happen, different things happen. Because I can tell you a couple of situations where I've got pulled over here in Lubbock, right here in the great city of Lubbock, Texas, and because of the neighborhood that I live in. I'm not supposed to be living in the neighborhood, so I get the third degree on why am I driving in this neighborhood, why am I doing this, or why am I doing that, for whatever reason. And in the back of my mind, I know why they stopped me. I do. I know why, but I don't let that bother me. I'll tell you this quick story real quick too as well. I'm sorry. Yesterday, me and my daughter was driving down University, and we were passing a police officer. And this threw me off. My daughter was like, "Dad, don't pass the police officer." I was like, "Why?" She was like, "I don't want him to pull you over. So I'll be scared if he pull you over." Now that right there, that opened my eyes. That really did, wow, she's really paying attention, to what's going on. So my daughter shouldn't have to feel like that. Just because I get pulled over by an officer does not mean the end of my life.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? But that's her perception. And she's 16. We're about to be 17 years old.
Yeah.
But that's what she says. Say, no, don't pass the cops. I don't want you to get pulled over.
Reggie, we're going to do one more segment with you. We're going to put you back on hold. When we come back, we'll have one more segment with Reggie Dial, 100 Black Men of West Texas. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. We've been visiting with Reggie Dial with the 100 Black Men of West Texas here on the Chad Hasty Show. Reggie, we got one more segment to visit with you about this, and we appreciate you for joining us.
Yes, sir.
We were talking about I guess being afraid of the police or having that sense of the police. One thing, and the reason I asked you about that is something that I've just seen on the national news, and I've seen it on social media, is that in the black community, there's a conversation that doesn't apparently happen in the white community, which is you're going to be targeted because of your skin color.
Yes.
Does that happen? Because you brought up that you weren't taught to not like the police. Speak to that a little bit. And if that's a message that should be sent, or if that hurts the overall relationship between police and the black community?
Well, Chad, unfortunately, that is a conversation that we have to have with our young men, and also our young women as well. But most definitely our young men when we come into interaction with some officers. There's certain ways that we have to react. There's certain things that we cannot do, and that's just the reality of it. And I hate to say the way that it is sometimes, but that's the way that it is sometimes. Even though with me, just from personal experience, late at night, down a dark road, I get pulled over by a police officer or a sheriff's officer, whoever it is, honestly, I'm going to feel a little nervous. Now, should I? I shouldn't. I should feel safe, but I do. You know, why is that? I don't know, because I was never taught. My parents never taught me to hate the police officers.
Right.
That never happened. But just from different experiences, different experiences my friends have went through, different experiences that so a lot of people I know have been through, that caused me to have that mindset at times. And I hate that I have that mindset, but that's just the reality that we're in right now.
What do you think, and this goes back to, the conversation that I know your organization wants to continue, past this radio show and just, to have the conversation that is out there. What is something that, I guess the best way to put it, white America will never understand, and maybe that the black population will not understand about how white America thinks? What do you think about it? Because that's where you get into the uncomfortableness, right?
There you go. Exactly. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, and because there are things that you live different experiences in life.
You do.
You're not going to understand. You come from two different places, and this is where people get uncomfortable talking. Because, nobody wants to be considered a racist or anything like that, but this is where it kind of breaks down, right? So what do you think are those, just from, the talks that you've had with police, talks that you've had are all around the community, where do you think the differences are that people will just never understand?
Well, Chad, the reality is, we both know this, you will never be able to walk in my shoes, and I will never be able to walk in your shoes, But what we can do, Chad, is walk beside each other and try to understand my perspective, and I try to understand your perspective, and then come to some kind of agreement like, okay, trust what I'm feeling is real, and I trust what you feel is real, because we can have two truths, we can have two truths. Your truth is your truth, and my truth is my truth, but we have to come to a middle ground to understand that, hey, this is how I see things. This is the way that, from my perspective, this is what's going to happen. And from your perspective, this is what's going to happen. Because you're right. We probably grew up in two totally different worlds. But that's okay. So, Chad, that's fine. Because I wouldn't want us to all be alike. That'd be a boring world.
Yeah.
I want us to have differences. That way we can have these type of conversations, that way we can have these type of dialogue. And I think, Chad, and I really appreciate you, having me on. I really appreciate you having the 100 Black Men of West Texas on your show, because this conversation can be the change agent that we need, because let's do it. This is the start of the conversations that we need to have, so beyond this radio show, Chad, we can meet up for lunch. We can meet up for something. I really want to have these type of dialogues, these type of honest conversations beyond the radio show.
Well, and I think what's good here is that we're talking about the issue of race in America, and with what happened with the police, and like you said, without all the other noise, without all the other the circus that goes along with it, because that's what you do have, where, you see in Seattle where, people were protesting George Floyd's death, and now all of a sudden they've started their own city in the middle of Seattle. That completely takes away from the police reforms that y'all were basically not marching, but walking side by side with the police for, and that gets lost.
It does, Chad, and I hate that. I really do, because it messes everything up.
Yeah.
It messes everything up and does not get to the root of the problem. You cause them more problems. We don't need that.
We had a few people texting in when you were talking about being scared of when, police pull you over, and nervous when police pull you over. Number of the listeners going, "Hey, I'm white. I get nervous when the police pull me over." Do you think that, and I think for those in the black community, that nervousness is probably a little bit different than in the white community. But do you think that's an overall issue just with police? Is that people are nervous when they get pulled over?
Like you said, it's a different type of nerve, though. My nervous is, am I going to get out of here? Right. I think a white person nervous is, am I going to get this ticket? Am I going to just get a warning? Am I going to get a ticket? And for me, it's more of a fear. It's more of a fear than of nervousness than anything. Okay, let me stay calm. Let me stay collect. I'm collecting my thoughts of what I'm gonna do. I'm a concealed handgun license owner, so I'm not gonna reach for the gun. Right. I'm gonna ask the officer to reach for the gun if they ask for it. Just those little things like that I have to think about. That's going through my head. Making sure my hands are on the steering wheel. Making sure I don't make any sudden moves. Just little things like that scares me. I don't want to make the wrong move.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't. And I shouldn't feel like that. I shouldn't. I should feel 100% safe at all times in front of a police officer. I should feel 100% safe.
Right.
And sometimes I don't. That's just the reality of it.
Reggie, where can people find out more information about the 100 Black Men of West Texas? And like you mentioned earlier, let's get together. Let's continue the conversation in the future.
Yes, sir. They can go to our website, 100bmwt.org. Go to our website. All of our information is on there.
All right. Reggie, appreciate your time today. I know you've got some other stuff going on, so we'll let you get to it, and we'll visit with you later on, okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Stay in touch.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's Reggie Dial, 100 Black Men of West Texas, here on the Chad Hasty Show.